the same topic. The constituent elements of a play, and let me do few things like yes. So today we will discuss about the sources of tragic pleasure, right? Okay. So uh, I mean, it's the general thing that the end of poetry is to give pleasure only. And tragedy is one kind of poetry. I mean, as per Aristotle, because it is full of music and full of written in that way only. So, and as a tragedy has its own distinctive pleasure. Means, totally special kind of pleasure would be there uh, the Aristotle in tragedy. In view of Aristotle, uh, poetry is to give a certain refined pleasure. This pleasure is pleasure of tragedy is something, a refined kind of pleasure. So, in this, he goes counter to the view that the poet is primarily an ethical teacher. Means he does not believe in that only. And he believes, rather he considers that pleasure as essential and moral function as only incidental. Means in his view, moral function is not the final aim, the main aim, the cardinal aim. It is the pleasure which is very, very, very essential in case of play. Then it is moral. I mean, it is incidental. Incidentally, it has to become a moral thing because it talks about grandeur of thought. It talks about great thought, great uh, you know uh, subject. The subject is very lofty. Therefore, this function of this particular thing, I mean, will incidentally become the moral function. I mean, it has the moral function because it always talks about the good thing. They try to avoid the bad thing at altogether. So, therefore, it is moral function is just incidental. It's not the primary function. But earlier, before Aristotle, people always considered. Even now, people also often consider that this poem or literature is mainly for the moral purpose, for ethical purpose. So therefore, I mean, he talked about few, sources here that in since it is kind of a uh, different kind of pleasure that can be attained different methods, different reasons. This pleasure can be attained. Like he talked about 7 or 8 points. Uh, First of all, he says that the pleasure is derived partly from our natural sense of harmony and rhythm. Like verse and rhyme are not necessary, but they certainly enhance the pleasure of the poetry. Means something sonorous, something harmonious, and something that is you know melodious, full of music or present in rhythmic fashion is always becomes a source of pleasure. So next he talks about that it is also derived partly from the instinct of imitation, and it is pleasure arising from seeing a thing or action or well that is well imitated. Means if anything that is well imitated will give the function, I mean if that pleasure to the mind, that is called instinct. That I mean this instinctive pleasure, I mean you can say. So a successful tragedy gives pleasure because it satisfies our basic instinct of imagination. So that basic, I mean, help you to imagine something new, something of great concern. So that will give you, transform you from from your self to this your, I mean, the self with this character, with the play, the characters with of the play. And third, he says that poetry is imitation, and imitation of something with which we are not familiar. That means it will increase our knowledge and satiate the thing that to know, to learn new thing. That will give you pleasure. That is another kind of pleasure, that you are learning something new, you are knowing something new from this particular piece of work. Therefore, it is another kind of pleasure in terms of Aristotle, in the view of Aristotle. So the fourth point is that the peculiar pleasure of tragedy is caused by the catharsis of the emotions of pity and fear. I mean, another pleasure can be from the catharsis. I mean, from the pity and fear would be another, pleasure. Oh, sorry. The art annoyed. Okay, okay. Thank you. So the peculiar pleasure, I mean this is the thing that the through pity and fear, through pity and fear, uh, one gets this catharsis. And this is again, uh, can be said that another source of pleasure, like one person becomes fearful, or one person is showing pity, empathetic towards this character. It arouses, I mean it gives some kind of I mean some kind of pleasure to the I mean heart, or to person, to the soul. So this thing is, um, I mean, although it seems quite peculiar, because through catharsis, I mean through fear and through pity, what kind of pleasure it can be. But still, yes, this is also I mean pleasure of fear and pity, you can say. So you will be enjoying this thriller, or thrill of this pleasure, thrilling pleasure, you can say. So the next one is, I mean, he says, I mean, in his view, that tragedy imitates action and life, its pain and misery, and if this emotion is well done, it is gripping and absorbing, and there is a total emotional identification of the spectator with the person who suffers on the stage. Well, it is connected to this earlier point. Means you are getting going to have that purgation, that is catharsis, and why? Because you will associate yourself. Spectator will associate with the performer. Means this whatever is being performed on the stage, you will be affected, you will get affected with these things, with this performance, because you will automatically enter into the character itself, because it's a truly imitated thing, I mean perfectly imitated from the life, and therefore you will consider that it is happening with you itself. uh, therefore, I mean, this is some kind of a, having some power, that is uh, also this something called peripetia or anagnosis are commended by Aristotle, because uh, they heighten the seductive power or the gripping interest of the action. I mean, these also help uh, to give you pleasure. Like pure pleasure results from the excess of our emotions, sense, and thoughts on the tragic action. And in this way, we smile through our tears. Means uh, through this purgation, we will shed tears. Means that these tears are nothing but the burning pleasure that happened because of this uh, the perfect performance of this on the stage. So next is tragedy give pleasure because it results in enhanced understanding of life and its problems. It provides a kind of inner illumination. Means through this play, you will come to learn many things, including the learning that you will not make that flaw. I mean, you will not make that mistake that was made by the hero. So that learning will give you some inner thought, some illumination in your heart. So it is also one kind of pleasure. Okay. So next is that the last one is that the unity of plot and diction and the spectacles, etc., are other sources of pleasure in a tragedy, because uh, you know uh, different kind of diction, use of different kind of diction or arrangement of different kind of fiction plot will give you thrill to you, or use of spectacles on the stage. You will have different kinds of uh, altogether different kinds of experience that will be enthralling experiences, and that will give you arouse your emotions, extra emotions in your life, I mean, in yourself. Therefore I mean, this pleasure, this gives you another kind of pleasure. So that is there in Aristotle's sources of pleasure. So that's all for the day. I mean, this pleasure, tragic pleasure, is the topic for the day. So we'll not go further into this epic and tragedy. This will I will discuss this thing tomorrow. Okay, about epic and tragedy. This is the only thing that I had to discuss with you in connection with this today's lesson plan. So if you have any question, you can ask me, so that I can explain. You can ask about this uh, tragic pleasure of the tragedy, so that you can uh, so that you can write your answer in your exam.
Okay, sir.
Where is that? Yes, stop sharing. I have finished. So I have taken up the small topic only. So I can ask a 5 mark question on the different sources of pleasure. Okay. So you can prepare a note or anything, like from you can read it from the book, uh, Rahul Galak's book, History and Principles of Literary Criticism. There you will find this, these points are there. So you need to explain these points. Okay. So try to read this book, and you will be able to write yourself in the exam. Or you can along with this, I mean, uh, in different places that these things are discussed in detail, but at the same time, you also have to use your common sense, or you have to use the common examples from your knowledge, or from the from other text, so that this answer will be enriching, full of references and all. Okay, so do you
Yes,
have any,
sir.
yeah, do you have any question, any query, anything that you did not understand? Yes, no, yes or no? Tamal?
No, sir.
Okay. Ria, no. What about others?
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
Yes.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Oh,
No,
no.
sir.
Tamal, yes, no, yes, no. Yes or no?
Sir, I could not find the slide that you have shared today. Is
Yes.
it from a different PowerPoint? Like I couldn't find this slide in the PowerPoint that you have shared in WhatsApp.
Actually, I have prepared this. I mean, I have added two slides today.
Okay, sir.
So I'll share
Okay,
with you.
these are new
Okay.
slides.
Yeah. These
Yes, sir.
two.
Yes, sir. Please share, sir.
Yes, I'll share
Yes,
these
sir.
slides with you so that you can see.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, that was it, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you,
What
sir.
else? Mm, no other thing.
No, sir.
I'm share. I'm sharing, yeah, that slide with you. Check it.
Yes, sir.
I've shared with in the another group. Your MA. I'm sharing with you. So your course is about to finish today. I mean, maybe tomorrow we'll finish that thing. Like we'll have one thing left. We have one thing that is. It is only tragedy and comparison between tragedy and epic. So we'll do that
Yes,
tomorrow.
sir.
After that, we'll take up some question and answer if you have any query. Then, okay,
Okay,
okay
sir.
then. Hmm.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Tata. See
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Bye,
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
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 See you too. Bye, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Tata.
Bye, sir. Bye, sir.